104.5 The Team, your home for New York sports. And, of course, Buster Olney brought to you by Tech East Fire and Water Restoration. Check them out online, tefirewater.com. Buster Olney with us. Buster, we talk about water. I mean, is the MLB going to do something about the beginning of these seasons, like in the upstate games, all getting changed because of weather? Do you see some kind of major overhaul coming?
No, absolutely not. It feels like every few years we have one of these conversations because of snow outs or rain outs early in the season. It's never going to happen because there's no team in baseball that wants to have a preponderance of games in April for home games. In theory, you could open up the season down in Tampa Bay in a dome and in warm weather sites, Dodger Stadium, San Diego, but they don't want to play a bunch of April games. Everybody wants to have as many home games as they can for June and July and August when school's out and kids go to the ballparks. So when people say, well, you know what, let's just have the Rays be a home team in April and no Yankee home games. Yankees would vote for that in a heartbeat. They would love to have all those July games, but there's no chance because all teams want as few April games as possible because that's typically when you get the smallest crowds.
Yeah, that was my goal, was to get more home games in the summer when I can go.
There you go.
Buster, what are your thoughts on Giancarlo Stanton? He gets the platinum sombrero, strikes out 5 times. He gets booed at Yankee Stadium, and some fans are throwing a fit over it.
Yeah, I was surprised to see the reaction that, to the fact that he was booed. I almost feel like it was a rite of passage. Like, hey, welcome to the club, buddy. Babe Ruth was booed. Joe DiMaggio was booed. Mickey Mantle was booed. Derek Jeter was booed. Mariano Rivera was booed. And Giancarlo, you're a Yankee. We have high standards, and you're going to get booed. That's, I think, the attitude of Yankee fans, and I thought he handled it great. We talked, I think the first time that we had a discussion this spring about Stanton, a lot of the writers down, folks who cover the team down in Miami, kind of wondered how he would adjust to a market with greater scrutiny, because if he went 0 for 5 with 3 punch-outs when he was playing on the Marlins, there were times he wouldn't come out. Obviously, he's gotten some great advice. Maybe it was his instinct anyway, but for him to come out after that, opening day game and say, hey, I get it, why the fans were upset. I was terrible, and thank you to Didi Gregorius for picking me up, and he comes back strong the second day. He got cheered. That's just the nature of playing in New York and in Yankee Stadium.
Buster Olney with us right now on 104.5 The Team. So, Buster, you said the name, and I'm of the opinion that Didi Gregorius might be the best player on the Yankees.
I'm surprised you stopped short there. I thought you were going to say best player in the universe. Okay?
There's other teams?
The late and great Kevin Towers, if you remember, the former general manager of the Padres who worked for the Yankees for a time, when they made that trade, he compared him to Derek Jeter. And maybe it's going down that line. No, I don't think so. There's no chance. Come on. He's a good complementary player. He's not a superstar-level player. The one great thing about Didi, I think, is he's steadily gotten better as an offensive player. And I do wonder, after seeing him in that home opener, if, as Greg Bird makes his way back, if Aaron Boone will say, you know what, we're good. We'll just leave Didi be hitting behind Stanton, because we feel like he'll be able to take advantage of it, especially in Yankee Stadium with that short porch.
Can I at least get a little love on the learning curve? Like, he wasn't even an everyday player before he came to the Yankees.
Well, I mean, he was a good prospect. There were teams that really liked him a lot. I don't know what you want me to say. I think he's a good player. He's done a terrific job. Put it this way. Who would have guessed 10 years ago that the guy who replaced Derek Jeter, it would feel like that the transition was completely seamless, and everybody loves the guy who followed Derek Jeter. That's where we are with this.
That's fair. I'll take that.
Yeah, all right. We'll move on from the Yankees. We'll talk about the division that is the AL East. It's the Red Sox and the Yankees. The Blue Jays have 4 victories, but after that, the Rays and Orioles are struggling. Is this division race going to be over as soon as the end of April?
End of April might be too soon. I do think that Toronto is a better team than what people realize. I think they're a deeper team. They got Aaron Sanchez. They have Marcus Stroman. They have Josh Donaldson. But I do wonder, if you gave truth serum to the folks in Baltimore, the folks in Tampa Bay, the folks in Toronto running those teams, if they feel like, you know what, we're probably not good enough to keep up with the Red Sox and the Yankees, and if we're going to get knocked out of the race, the sooner the better, because then we can move on to other business. For the Orioles, that means marketing and trading Manny Machado. For the Toronto Blue Jays, I think it means marketing and trading Josh Donaldson. In some respects, that might be the fate that those front offices would prefer.
We'll flip it from the AL East to the NL East and the New York Mets. The Mets earlier this week had a game exclusively on Facebook. Are more Major League Baseball teams going to do this and have exclusive games airing on their social media sites?
I don't know, and I got to be honest. When this stuff happens, I feel like the most unqualified person to give you, the here's why it happens, and here's why it works, and here's why it's good for Major League Baseball. Obviously, there's some metrics, there's some value, there's something coming out of it that is compelling MLB to consider doing this. But it was interesting to follow the responses from fans yesterday when that happened. A lot of people up in arms that they weren't able to see the game.
Buster Olney with us right now, 104.5 The Team, your home for New York Yankees baseball. One of the guys that I have given a hard time to because he didn't want to be a Yankee is the Japanese Babe Ruth, who is looking like every bit of the star they said he would, Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, and it was interesting because at the end of spring training, when there was so much discussion in the media about Ohtani's poor performance in spring, his bad results, when I talked to the Angels people, they were like, we love the guy. We think the guy is a tool chest because he has so many weapons at his disposal. Mike Trout told me, that when you watch him take batting practice with all the power that he has, in Trout's words, he said, you have to remind yourself, oh, yeah, he throws 101 miles per hour. And, oh, by the way, he's been clocked running to first base as fast as Trout has. He's been tremendous early in the year. Pitching, and I think that'll be his forte, absolutely solid, and he's a good enough hitter where you could see him hitting a lot of mistakes and generating 20, 25 home runs in what is essentially a part-time role at DH. I know that Trout's theory is that if he just had some early results in the regular season, it would allow him to relax because there's so many people following him. He's under so much scrutiny. They just needed him to play well early, and then he would settle in.
It's success from him for the Angels, but the other team on the West Coast, the LA Dodgers, why have the Dodgers had so much trouble early on?
Well, there's a lot of conversation around Clayton Kershaw and Kenley Jansen with the velocity being down, and I do think Kershaw is going to make the same transition that every pitcher other than Sandy Koufax has had to make, which is to adjust to diminished velocity, and that might take a year or two. We've seen CC Sabathia do it. You saw Greg Maddux do it. You saw Pedro Martinez. Now Clayton Kershaw has to do it. I think Jansen, he'll be fine. He'll just build up some arm strength. But I tell you what, the offense does not look right. And they've scored only 22 runs in 7 games. Justin Turner's the anchor of that lineup. He got injured at the end of spring training when he was hit by a pitch. He's on the disabled list. I do wonder in watching that team if during the course of the year you'll see them go out and make some kind of a trade, because it does feel like at the moment like they got a lot of complementary type players as opposed to mashers, and right now they need some mashers.
Buster, any truth to the rumor that Justin's actually okay? He just doesn't want to come back because of the sewage leak by third base?
Oh, man, I was wondering where you're going to go with that. I know Justin so well. I know this. He wouldn't give up a day of baseball if he's given a choice.
Buster Olney with us right now. And Buster, the team that the Dodgers played in the World Series, they got their rings. The rings look awesome for the Houston Astros. I will say that. I mean, but obviously the Astros are going to take a step back, right?
Yeah, right. Cover your ears. You're not going to want to hear this.
I'm going to leave.
The Astros are not only defending champions, they not only have those great rings, and I agree with you, they're some of the best World Series rings I've ever seen, but they right now are the best team in baseball, and I think there's an enormous gap between the Astros and any other team. They look like they are going to steamroller baseball during the course of the year. And look, it's a long season. Injuries happen. Slumps happen. Teams might get better during the course of the year to make trades. They do have a bullpen issue that they probably have to sort through. But when you throw Garrett Cole into that rotation and you have those young, dynamic players in their everyday lineup, Carlos Correa and Alex Bregman and George Springer, and those guys are making adjustments and getting better, that team right now is unstoppable. And maybe I'll put it in this way, in a way that can make you feel better. You remember that year when the Patriots were undefeated and then they wound up losing in the Super Bowl to the Giants right at the end?
Yes.
That's kind of how the Astros feel right now. Like, who will step in. The question is, who will stand in their way, who will step in their way and have a chance to stop them. Maybe it's the Indians, maybe it's your Yankees, maybe it's the Red Sox, but, man, they look great.
It's probably whatever team has Didi Gregorius. I mean.
Yeah, okay.
Buster, what is up with Gabe Kapler right now?
He's having, I don't think there's any doubt, the worst first week of any manager I've ever seen. There's always that saying when a guy plays out of position, like, for example, a first baseman is moved to the outfield for a given game, or an outfielder's moved to third base, and we always talk about how, like, the baseball gods find that guy, the ball's delivered to that guy. This first week, that's what it feels like with Gabe, who's a smart guy, and a lot of people who know him talk about how much knowledge he has. But in the first 2 days, he makes 15, or he uses 15 pitchers, which set a record. Day 3, he calls for a reliever from the bullpen who hadn't even been throwing and it was not warmed up. And then that situation that happened in the Mets game on Wednesday where the Phillies, and I talked to scouts who were there, and they were telling me that in the early part of that game, they're looking out in right field, and they're seeing Nick Williams, the right fielder for the Phillies, playing way in, shallow, 50, 60 feet in front of where he would normally play, and the scouts are like, man, I wonder if he's going to get burned. Well, that's exactly what happened. Ahmad Rosario hits the ball over his head, 2-run score, the Phillies lose again, and look, if you're Gabe Kapler at this point, you are swimming upstream against the perception, fair or not, that you are overmatched. It's a real problem.
Do you think it's just growing pains at this point, Buster?
Well, whatever it is, here's the problem. Whatever it is, it is something that he's just going to have to weather and hope that they start to win, because if they continue to lose, then it's going to make for really difficult conversation for him.
Buster Olney, he's the best. Where are you going to be this weekend?
We are going to be in Washington, where we have the Mets against the Nationals. On Saturday, we've got 5 to 6 inches of snow forecast. On Sunday, I'll be there happily sitting in 35-degree temperatures. Matt Harvey, it looks like, is going to pitch against Tanner Roark.
I thought it was crazy. I saw that Callaway said that the reason they brought Conforto back so early is he wanted Strasburg. Is that a good idea for him?
Wow. You got to love that.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. I'm just worried for the kid. Buster, man, thank you so much for making time. You're brought to us by Techie's Fire and Water Restoration, your best way back to normal. Visit them online at tefirewater.com. Safe travels, my friend.
That sounds great. I'll talk to you guys next week.